Hey everyone, this is Stephanie from Fast Track to Health. I am a licensed acupuncturist and functional medicine practitioner here in Marmora, New Jersey. Today I'm going to be talking about the top 5 things that you probably didn't know about Lyme disease. But before I get into that, let me just give you a quick overview of what Lyme disease is. I'm sure many of you have heard of it before, but you may not know what it is. In general, Lyme disease is an infection that you get from getting bit by a tick. There's a germ called Borrelia that's also called Lyme, but the actual name for the bug is Borrelia. So most of the time, I should say some of the time, someone will get a rash after they're bit by a tick, and they'll start to feel sick, and then they'll get a treatment for it, and sometimes it goes away, and sometimes it does not. So that's just sort of what Lyme disease is in a nutshell. So let's get into the top 5 things you may not know, okay? So number 1, chronic Lyme disease. So the fact that chronic Lyme disease exists in and of itself is actually controversial. Some doctors believe that beyond just that couple weeks after the tick bite, that Lyme disease is gone. It can't possibly do anything else later on in the person's life. So that in and of itself is controversial because many people do have chronic Lyme disease, and years later, they may not have even known they had a tick bite, but years later they're sick and maybe Lyme is manifesting in a different way because it's known as the great imitator, meaning that it looks like something else. So someone may have rheumatoid arthritis or multiple sclerosis or something else, but it could be Lyme mimicking that. So it's called the great imitator. So the fact that Lyme, exists in this chronic form is something that not all doctors believe in. Okay. So next, Lyme disease in New Jersey. New Jersey is one of the top places that it exists. So here where I live, we're kind of in the center of the epidemic of Lyme disease. Here in the Northeast is where it's most common in this country, and New Jersey is kind of right in the middle of it all. And they estimate that about 95% of ticks in New Jersey carry the germ for Lyme disease. So that's pretty significant. So number 3, ticks are not the only way for the Lyme germ to get around. So yes, it's the most common form. It's the most common way to get the infection is through ticks. However, other biting insects can also carry it. So even if you've never been bit by a tick, it's possible to still get it. And the research is coming out more and more on that, and they're starting to show that it's in other insects, as well as being spread from person to person. So from mother to fetus, and even through sexual transmission. More and more research is being done in these areas, and people are starting to see that the transmission can occur in other ways. Now, will everyone get sick from this that gets these types of germs? No, it doesn't mean it. Just because you have it in your body does not mean you will get sick from it. I test people all the time. The vast majority of people have been exposed to it. It does not mean that you're going to get it. But I just wanted to make it clear that it's not just about ticks. Okay, so another thing, number 4, Borrelia is just one of the things that can travel on ticks. So this specific germ is just one, meaning there are other things that come on the ticks, other types of infections. Things such as Babesia, Bartonella, Anaplasma, Ehrlichia, Mycoplasma. These are other types of infections, whether parasitic or bacteria, but it's not just the Lyme germ that comes with these insects. So there's other infections that have to be looked at as well. So a lot of times people will get tested for Lyme, but they're not tested for any of the co-infections. Here at my clinic, I test for all of them, anything that could possibly travel on the insects. Okay, so lastly, treatment. So this is the most important thing, right? If you have it, what do you do? If you are sick from it, what do you do? Again, this is very controversial. So most people are going to take antibiotics, especially after an acute bite. If they know they have the rash and they just got bit, they're going to take them. So yeah, in this case, you might get lucky and a couple weeks of antibiotics may knock it out. You might be lucky and you never get it again. You never get sick from it again. But if you don't catch it right after you've been bit and you wind up getting sick years later, antibiotics at this point may not work. Okay, sometimes they work, but if they do work, they have to be taken for a really long time. And in a lot of cases, people will relapse after they come off them. So the treatment in and of itself is therefore very controversial because many doctors won't even give you antibiotics for more than a couple of weeks, where they might be needed for a longer period of time. Now, in our clinic, obviously, we don't use antibiotics. So I just want you to know there are other ways to treat it. There are other ways to go after the infections without damaging the body like antibiotics do. And there are other ways to boost the immune system. So we have a very comprehensive approach and program that we use for these kinds of infections. It's not a simple thing, no matter which route you go, whether it's antibiotics or holistic methods. It's not easy. It takes a long time, a lot of patience, but it can be done. It can happen. So I just wanted to let you know about these 5 things that perhaps you never knew about Lyme disease. So if you know anyone who has Lyme or thinks they may have Lyme, please share this information with them. It could be very important. And if you have any questions or comments for us, please leave them in the section below. I thank you very much for listening, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.